Today we're beginning a new series on the Tao Te Ching, verses 11 and 12. So let's start with verse 11. 30 spokes converge upon a single hub. It is on the hole in the center that the use of the cart hinges. Shape clay into a vessel. It is the space within that makes it useful. Carve fine doors and windows, but the room is useful in its emptiness. The usefulness of what is depends on what is not. Wow. So Lao Tzu is talking about a wheel and how its usefulness depends on the center, what's in the center. He's talking about a clay vessel, and its usefulness is in the empty space at the center. Without the center part, it wouldn't be very useful. He's talking about a house and how without a space in the center of the house, an emptiness, you would not have a useful house. And he's suggesting that at the center of our being is an emptiness, a void, that without that void, that emptiness, in unity we call it silence, stillness, without that void at the center of our being, that is where our usefulness comes from as well. Dr. Dyer uses an analogy. He says, if it were possible to take all of your body parts and organs and so on and lay them out on a blanket, and they are all still useful and functioning, if it were possible to lay them all out on a blanket, you, the beingness, that when they're all put together, you know that you have all these parts, but you also are aware that you are in there somewhere, you're a beingness. But if you were to spread them all out on a blanket, you would no longer be there. But when you put them back together, it's you, it's the invisibleness of you. That void that you are, what Wayne Dyer calls non-being, because when you take the body parts and lay them on a blanket, you're not there. You can't see you. But when you put it all back together, you, the non-beingness, the void, that invisibleness, is what gives life to the whole body, is what makes it function. Now, to throw in a Halloween analogy, happy Halloween. An author referred to that invisibleness, that non-beingness, that void that you and I are, as the ghost in the machine. There you go. The ghost in the machine. It's that void at the center of our being, that non-material reality that gives life to our whole body, that enables us to function. And the same could be said, we could see that non-material reality in all things, in all of life. If we were to look at a tree and say, what is a tree? Is it the bark? Is it the leaves? Is it the branches? Is it the roots? Yes, all that's part of a tree, but ultimately, no. It's a non-material reality, an invisible essence that makes it a tree. And so Lao Tzu is encouraging us to recognize that non-material reality that we are, that you and I are. We can see your body, right? You can see your body. You can see, but the you that's in the body, the you that has a mind, the you that has of emotions, is the non-material void that we are. It's that invisible life essence that comes from, as Dr. Dyer used to like to say, from nowhere, but is now here, expressing in and through and as you in your body. And so we're encouraged to take time daily to get to know that non-material void that we are and that is in us. We could think of it as being contained within this body, but it's that space that's nowhere, really. It's everywhere, and it's focused and expressing as us. To take time in the stillness, to take time to get to know that void that is us, that place of non-being, so that it can animate our physical body, so that it can express through us. He says that it's out of this non-material void that we find love and kindness. That we don't have to try to be loving and kind. We can tune into this non-material void, this non-being place inside of us, and as Lao Tzu talks about, allow it to flow. Let it come forth. Let loving thoughts, let kind thoughts unfold from within us. That's what the enlightened beings do. That's what the God-realized beings do. It's not that they have these loving, kind thoughts and we don't. It's that they're living from this essence. They're living from this non-material reality inside of them. And so that's what we're called to do too. It's the center of the wheel that makes it useful, that helps it function. It's the empty space in a clay cup that makes it useful. It's the empty space in a home that makes it a home. And it's the void at the center of our being that gives us life. Jesus said, I have come that you may have life and have it more abundantly. What is that abundant life? That abundant life is at the center of our being. It's a wellspring of divine energy, of divine life that we can tune into. Emily Cady, who wrote the classic Unity text, Lessons in Truth, she talks about a fountain. It's like a fountain of joy, a fountain of life, a fountain of peace that's in the center of our being. And the fact that we're aware of it is amazing. You know, most people are not aware of it. We weren't aware of it at one point. Everybody's walking around with this incredible fountain, this void, this non-material reality inside of them that is helping give them life. But you and I can consciously connect with it at any time. So can anyone, but they don't know it. They don't know it. Which leads us into the next verse. And it's based on Wayne Dyer's chapter, Living with Inner Conviction. And it's the 12th verse of the Tao Te Ching. You ready for another deep idea here from Lao Tzu? Here we go. The 5 colors blind the eye. The 5 tones deafen the ear. The 5 flavors dull the taste. The chase and the hunt craze people's minds. Wasting energy to obtain rare objects only impedes one's growth. The master observes the world, but trusts his inner vision. He allows things to come and go. He prefers what is within to what is without. Now, the master is that self-realized, God-realized being who's in tune with the flow of the Tao, who's in tune with the flow of God, of Spirit, of the Christ within. However, whatever words we want to use there, he's in tune with that, and he or she knows that seeking the outer world for fulfillment and happiness ultimately seeking money, seeking power, seeking fame, seeking whatever outer things that we think are going to bring us fulfillment is a never-ending story. It is always never enough. There's never enough. Someone who gets high on drugs or whatever, that's not going to last, is it? It's never enough. Multi-millionaires are worried about their money. They're worried about losing it. They're worried about how they're going to make more of it. It's a never-ending thing. People who are famous. Well, Henry Fonda, the great actor, said every time he made a movie, he never knew if he was going to make another one. Wow. You complete one and you're worried about the next one. Seeking fulfillment and happiness in the outer world is never enough. There's never enough. There's always a treadmill, right? You're always on that treadmill. When am I going to finally feel happy and content and satisfied and fulfilled? And a lot of people go through their whole lives, and as the Indian sage Yogananda said, a lot of people get older and they start to feel disillusioned by their life. Disillusioned because it didn't fulfill the promises that they thought it would do. The grandkids are busy with their life. They've got their kids. They don't call as much. They're not interested as much. You know, all the things. We retire and we find out the new home, the cottage by the sea, has termites. The aches and pains. You know, the golden age doesn't feel so golden when the parts of the body start feeling a certain way. So, what is Lao Tzu telling us? He's telling us that seeking all this stuff in the outer world, looking for fulfillment, ultimately is a never-ending cycle. And as one sage says, it leads to anguishing monotony. I remembered that anguishing monotony. I was fortunate. I got to learn that early in my life, the anguishing monotony, where I was, graduated high school and had so much great stuff going on when I was a teenager, unlike a lot of teenagers, I guess. I just felt like I lived a whole lifetime by the time I was 18. That's how it felt. And then when I got to college, it was like, oh no, I've got to do this all over again. And I remember just feeling like, what's it all about? What is the point? And I felt sort of dead inside. I just felt, maybe I was depressed. Maybe I was burned out. I don't know. But it was like the anguishing monotony. And I know someone here right now, here in this room or watching online, is feeling that anguishing monotony. Oh, God, what a drag, And this is what happens when we're living just for the outer. And Lao Tzu calls it can lead to a crazed mind, He says that looking for these, what's he call them, rare objects only impedes one's growth. It impedes one's growth. How? Now, that says the master observes the outer world. The master observes the coming and going. She or he is not unaware of the outer world. It doesn't mean they don't enjoy the outer world. It doesn't mean that we deny the outer world. What it means is that we recognize that underneath the outer world is this presence and activity of spirit. It means that we recognize that the source of the beauty within a flower is this invisible essence that's also inside of us. It doesn't mean that we don't enjoy a sunrise or a sunset. It doesn't mean you don't enjoy a glass of wine or whatever it might be. But what it means is you recognize that whatever joy is triggered inside of you by that external thing is only a glimpse of how much joy we can potentially experience from within. What Dr. Dyer and what Lao Tzu are calling this inner conviction, this inner vision. The master enjoys the world, but he or she enjoys the world from an inner realization of the inner joy of the Spirit, of the self, of the Tao. The Master enjoys things with the joy of God, the joy of Spirit. Right? When you are in that inner joy, then you can watch a sunset or a sunrise and you can enjoy that experience, but even more so, you can feel that inner joy of yourself. People who aren't filled with that inner joy, who don't know that inner joy, they're looking for something outside to give it to them. And there are experiences where they will have it. There are experiences, something beautiful will happen to them and it will trigger this upliftment feeling, and so they want to have it again and they search for more of it. But all that's really happening is that for one moment their attention is off of themselves, it's outside of their ego, and that divine flow is able to happen for that brief instant. But what you and I are seeking is not for just one brief instant of joy or love or light. What we're seeking is we want a continual flow. It's not going to happen when we die and go to heaven up there somewhere. It's going to happen as we heal ourselves, as we heal the stuff that's inside of us and get more in tune with that divine void that we talked about today, that we get more in tune with that spirit, that non-material reality, that we take more time to turn within. As Lao Tzu says, that wasting energy to obtain rare objects. Wasting energy. How much energy do we waste on stuff that doesn't really matter? Really? Where are our priorities? Where is our focus? Do we spend a lot of time on stuff that doesn't matter and we don't take time to know that inner void that's in the center of our being? When we experience some pleasure in the outer world, does it remind us of what the sages tell us, that whatever pleasure you can experience in the world is only a glimpse of the joy of God that's inside of you? Wow. That's what the yogis say. They say, let whatever pleasure you experience in the outer world, let it remind you that God's joy inside of you is 1,000,000 times greater than that inner joy. I don't know about you, but that's what I want. I want to live more in that joy all the time, what the sages call Satchidananda. Satchidananda, conscious eternal bliss, ever new joy. It's never stale. It's never stale. Whatever in the world, it grows stale, doesn't it? You can just, I remember when I first moved to New York many, many years ago, I started eating mangoes. For some reason, I started eating mangoes. And they're sweet and so on. And I just kept eating mangoes. And you know what? I got sick of mangoes. I didn't want mango. I didn't eat mangoes again for many years. Don't give me a mango. He gets tired of it. Anguishing monotony. Anguishing monotony. But the joy of the Lord is ever new. It's ever new. The Lao Tzu says, the sage trusts his inner vision. He allows things to come and go. He prefers what is within to what is without. He prefers what is within to what is without. Here's the amazing thing. The more you and I tap in to that non-material reality that is our own being, the more we experience that inner peace and that inner joy, the less we need external stuff to satisfy us. It's so true. The less we need the outer world to give us what we think we're missing, because we're not missing it now. That's how we overcome so-called temptation, is the more you taste that inner joy, that inner sweetness, the more you can say, oh no, I don't need that. That's okay, I can do without that. You're not tempted by the external. You don't know. You don't think the external is going to give you what you don't already have. It's inside of you. The more we experience that inner love, the more we're able to really be loving. Because now when you know the inner love, now you can be there to support a loved one without them feeling like there are strings attached. What's that song? What have you done for me lately? Right? A lot of people, love is not really love, it's business. It's business. I do for you, you do for me. There's nothing wrong with that. But there's no freedom in that. Freedom to love for the joy of loving. To be kind for the joy of being kind. To do the right thing because there's joy in doing the right thing. That's freedom. That's freedom. Recently, some of you know, I just got back from Pinehurst, North Carolina. It was a lot of fun. I played in a national golf championship down there, the Amateur Players Tour Golf Championship. And I went there to win the championship in my division, okay? I had been preparing for it for a long time. It's always in the back of my mind, even though I played in other tournaments. Ultimately, I wanted to win the national championship. So I went there and got ready for it, and did pretty well. On the third day, the third round, after the first round, I was tied for second. I was 2 shots behind the leader. And then the second day, I played, and then I was 6 shots behind the leader. And then the third day was the top 26 got to play a world-famous golf course called Pinehurst No. 2. It's one of the toughest golf courses in the world. And they gave us a break, though. They made it a little easier, but it still was tough. So the third day, I was in the top 26, got to play this nice golf course, and ran into some troubles, some difficulties, things I didn't know about the course. You know, when you hit a good shot and you get penalized for it because you didn't know the greens were so tough and slick and whatever. That was fine, but around number 7, I started talking to God. Oh no, he's talking to God. That's not good. I said, God, what can I do here? What can I do to turn this game around here? And I heard the words, let go. Now, I don't know if that was God speaking to me or whether it was just my own mind telling me let go, but I thought, that sounds like a good thing to do right now. So I thought, how do I let go? And I thought to myself, I let go by seeing God as the doer. In other words, I hit a shot. God, you just pushed that shot about 15 yards offline. God, you just made that putt. Good putt. Good shot, God. And I'm going to tell you, that may sound silly, but that's how I let go. I started to get Justin out of the way and let God be God through me. And here's the amazing thing. No, I didn't win the championship, but I started to feel very relaxed, very peaceful. I started to enjoy the experience more. I started to take in the environment. I was standing on the green, sort of relaxed, watching people play, taking it all in, knowing that God was doing it through me. It wasn't about me anymore. It was about letting God be God through me. I let go of trying. I let go of, how people can get. And I started to really enjoy the experience. And I played 6 shots better on the back 9 than I did on the front 9 by letting go and letting God. And I ended up tying for 9th in the national championship. Which isn't too bad for a guy who lives in Manhattan, playing against these southern guys who were playing all year round. But, I thought to myself, what would it be like if I could remember to do that more and more in every area of my life? What would it do for you if you also could remember, whatever the situation is in your life, to let God be God in and through you? To get away from the grabbing or the straining or the struggling, the trying, the sense that you're the one who's got to do it, you're the one that's got to make it happen, and to relax, to go the way of the Tao, which is to allow, which is to let God be God in and through and as you. I'll tell you one thing, it's a whole lot more enjoyable. Here I was, I'd been, preparing for a whole year for that national championship. And I was aware of that. I'm like, here I am in the national championship, and I am so relaxed, so at ease, don't care what happens, and just taking it all in. And I think we can do that in every area of our lives. By what? By getting the ego out of the way. By getting the self out of the way. This is what Jesus the Christ knew. He said, the works that I do, you can do and greater, because of myself, I can do nothing. It's the Father within me that does the work. Yeah, the ego doesn't get the same satisfaction. That's one of the challenges that I've asked over the years. If I don't go, wow, good job, great shot, Justin, then where's the pleasure? Well, I'll tell you where the pleasure was. The pleasure was I could actually stand back and enjoy the experience because I was no longer involved. I was the observer. Imagine living life where we are enjoying every experience because we're an instrument, we're a vehicle, and Spirit is doing the work through us. Let's get still for a moment. We acknowledge in the center of our being this void, this non-material reality that's expressing in and through and as us. And we thank you, Father, Mother God. Thank you, Tao, for helping us to understand this and to know this better. Thank you for guiding us to help us to move beyond the ego identifications that we have, that I'm my body, I'm my performance, I'm my mind, I'm my emotions, I'm this unhealed, broken person. No, thank you for helping us get beyond that, to recognize that you are the reality of who we are, that we are here and present and vehicles to let your reality express and unfold in and through and as us. Thank you for helping us to enjoy life more, to experience appreciation of every single moment, rather than chasing after things of the world that can give us a crazed mind. Of course, we know it's okay to go after those things. It's okay to have those things, but we want to enjoy the journey. So thank you, Spirit, for showing us how. Thank you for giving us comfort and peace, and for being the activity that is doing all things in and through and as us. For this awareness, we are truly, truly grateful. And so it is. Amen. Would you please join me now in knowing the prayer for protection? Together, the light of God surrounds us, the love of God enfolds us, the power of God protects us, the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Amen. Yea, God. Special thank you to our musicians, Daniel Nahmod and Ray Davis, and thank you for joining us today. Next week, we're going to talk about living with an independent mind and living beyond form. God bless you, and namaste.